Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Inky Thoughts podcast. I've been so excited to get this episode on here. Uh, to be honest, it's a bit of a bromance in the blossoming. It's me starting out with me fangirling over this guy, and especially a documentary he's doing currently. That if you haven't seen it yet, it's called Life Beyond Ink, and we're going to talk a lot about it today. And it's absolutely brilliant. Anthony Bourdain meets tattoos, as I'm probably going to say many times today. And this man, you probably know him already. If you know him, don't know him, but know this podcast, you're doing social media the opposite way around, man. But before I praise him too much and make him blush far too much for this podcast, Dakota, will you please introduce yourself?
Hey, what's up? My name is Dakota Weik, also known as Ink the Broad. I'm a tattoo ethnographer. I study and document the world of tattoos, from the history to the world's greatest tattoo artists to the different cultures of tattooing across the world. I'm a documentarist. I've started creating tattoo documentaries on the most fascinating tattoo artists, capturing their stories and their cultures. I do a lot of different things with the tattoo world. But in a synopsis, I study and document the world of tattooing in every angle possible.
I mean, that is to say the least. Like you said that you do to say you do a lot in the world of tattooing is a little bit of an understatement. I mean, you've worked with Co-Create, Solon, plenty of other magazines and other places have had you contact with you and conventions you've been through. I mean, and as far as unless you've added another since last we spoke, which I'm not sure if you have or haven't, you've been to 48 different countries currently, right?
Yeah. So 48, the last newest one was Taiwan. Um, so a big chunk of that was knocked out 2 years ago when me and my friend wanted to take this dream trip. And
Oh,
he allowed me to navigate the entire thing, create the itinerary. And I love going to places that I've just feel are super adventurous. And I was like, let's go to Europe and knock out 30 countries in one trip. It was 75 days. It was 2 days per country, which is not ideal, but we were like, fuck it. So started off in Italy, and then we flew over to Estonia, and then went all the way down to Macedonia, Kosovo,
man.
Serbia, Bulgaria, Turkey, and just whew.
I'll say that is a bit of an unorthodox road to go from there to Estonia and then that route as well.
Yeah, we were popping all around. I just wanted to do like a loop down, touch Istanbul. Then we had to take a 9 hour train ride up to Bulgaria. They checked our passports like 7 times on the train, kept waking us
Wow.
up. And they're like, passport. I was like, dude, you just checked it 10 minutes ago. Take it until we're done with the train ride. It's like we're trying to sleep. It's
I mean,
4 a.m.
it is kind of interesting. Some countries in Europe are very like, we've checked it at the airport or wherever you got in, you're fine from here on out. Others are like, any chance they get, they check your passport.
Yeah, we got the whole car searched in Bosnia, and they're like, "Get out! We need to check the whole car." And I was like, "Fuck."
I mean, to be fair, they probably heard the American accent and thought, you know what? We're gonna check
Yeah,
this car.
I should have faked an Irish accent or something. Be like, "Oh no, from Dublin."
I mean, if you could, yes. No.
And it might have been like, "Yeah, that was a horrible accent. You're going to jail."
Probably not, but I'll probably give you a shot until it works, to be honest. But were you already collecting tattoos on that trip? Or was that a bit before?
Yeah, so I collected 9 while I was there.
Yeah,
Is it PG to show point at
yeah,
it?
of course. Trust me, for my show, yes.
So there's a couple I got. I got a real tiny one in Ibiza. I think it's on this side, but there's a
Oh,
tiny tattooer in Ibiza. I got this one in London. It says, "Keep writing the most interesting story."
oh,
Um, I got this one. Where is it? Oh, I got that one in Turkey, and then Kosovo, Portugal, Macedonia. This one has a funny meaning. There's one in Estonia, and I think that's there's a couple. Oh, there's one from Latvia down there on my leg.
oh.
So I wanted to
So you
collect.
did collect some because I know you are quite a fan of collecting tattoos where you go on trips nowadays, especially.
Yeah, I like turning my body into a passport. So I've collected in 21 different countries now.
Oh, so you have to return to the other 27 to get one from them.
Yeah, it was like half and half, and then I started traveling a lot more. But now I've been stamped in 21 countries.
And the latest one you got, I think it just about almost went viral, that one. Like people really seem to love the latest one you got with the wine glass you got in Italy.
Oh, people like that one. Yeah, I got
It,
three
I mean,
while
it's
I
a
was
good
in.
tattoo. It's quite a good reimagination of your favorite style, as I know, traditional. Like there's some nice touches to it.
Yeah, his gradient on that was absolutely beautiful with that red wine. I got three tattoos while I was in Italy on that
There
trip.
are a lot of great artists in
Crazy.
Italy, so
Yeah, there was Davide at Oreo tattoo, and then I got Matteo Nangeroni's white whale. He tattooed my stomach, and then the final part, I wanted that wine glass.
nice. I
Yeah,
mean, you almost have to when you're in Italy, don't you?
yeah. Italy's packed with incredible tattoo artists.
And a wine glass as well. Like you couldn't go more Italian.
Yeah. He's known for his female faces, and I reached out. I said,
Oh.
"You want to do this wine glass?" He's like, "Yeah, but I don't I don't know if like I can do my style that way." And I was like, "Well, if you're not uncomfortable or if you're uncomfortable with it, then it's okay. We don't have to do it." But I really want the wine glass. I got a lot of faces on me already, so I gotta
I
balance
mean,
it out.
it's also good to help artists push their boundaries sometimes when they're comfortable with it, like have to help them to try something new. I mean, usually they end
Yeah.
up quite
He
grateful
was
for the
so happy
experience.
with it.
Yeah,
He
exactly. And it
was
turned
so
out
proud
great.
of
I
that
mean,
piece. Yeah. So now
he's
he's
probably gonna
probably
end up
gonna get a
doing
lot of
more
wine
wine
glass.
classes now, to be honest.
Yeah.
He's gonna be messaging you soon, be like, because of your popularity, Dakota, I'm doing fucking wine classes all the time.
Yep. Just cranking them out.
Speaking of that, uh, I know people love your their first love when they think of you is probably your many reviews that you crank out quite often, quite frequently, quite great. I mean, some of them are shorter form compilations, others are more in depth. But I personally know, and this is why my love of you is most deep. Your documentaries is what I usually look most forward to, and there's only two episodes out now, which is the biggest crime you've done to me so far in our friendship. But as we've spoken about before, when I interviewed you for Ink magazine, and when we spoken before that, that is sort of your first love, the documentary work, not necessarily just doing documentaries, but the documenting of the tattoo world.
Yeah. So, like, the background of how those came to life.
Yeah, sure. Man.
So, the whole idea of Ink to Broad came when I was on, and I said this to you, but I was on a train. It was right before that massive trip.
All right.
Um, so it was, I think, a year and a half or 2 years before that big trip. I was going on a train to Liechtenstein, staring out the window. I had a clothing company that was failing miserably because only my friends bought it, and I didn't know anything about social media. And I was like, dude, I looked back on my social media and I was like, that looks so garbage. No wonder nobody bought. And the shirt designs are kind of poop. But it wasn't going well. And I started thinking of this concept. I was like, what if I start creating documentaries of the world's greatest tattoo artists? And in my notes on my phone, I have travel tattoo and I put like 25 countries. And I was like, what if I do this huge like year trip? I get an angel investor to pay for the whole thing. We make it a TV series. And I was like, no, somebody's going to steal that. That's too good of an idea. So I was like, I need to go on social media, see if people are interested in this first. And then also just learn and teach myself everything I can about tattooing before. Because if I walked in then making a documentary, I'd walk up to artists and be like, well, that's pretty neat. I like that the red and blue are together, as opposed to my
Yeah.
um expanded vocabulary now. So
I will say, like documentaries. the two episodes you have so far would have come across very differently if you just walked up to like Amanda Graves or Sergey saying,
Yeah.
I like how those colors are next to each other. Like,
Yeah. Some jackass that just thinks tattoos are pretty. I'm just like,
I mean, that's a different kind
oh,
of sort of comedy reality show rather than some jackass walking into studios going, that's a cool tattoo. And just,
yeah. I would not, I would get shut down so much.
yeah. Uh, I'd say that is the thing. It's a love and hate thing of this two world that there is, they want people to do stuff like you're doing if they really love it. They wouldn't
Yeah.
want they would be tired, I think, today of some documentary crew just coming in without any good intentions and just being like, can we film you like your animals on the Serengeti? Like,
Yep. Just to capture it and to monetize off of it. And I think that's what makes it even more like resonating, just because I have such a passion for it. Like I'm so invested in the culture, the thing. I don't care about it going on TV. I quite frankly don't want it on TV unless I get full creative rights and it's
yeah.
just being able to get enjoyed by more people. I don't, if they come in with 10
And
million
it
bucks and they
needs to
want
be
to
just
change
a
it,
publication aspect, to be honest,
yeah.
in a way, yeah.
If they want to benefit and put it on their platform so more people can enjoy it, that's it. But if they want creative control, no.
I mean, that's one of the many ways as we've spoken about before, we're both fans of this man, the late great Anthony Bourdain. I think that's one of the many ways you remind me of him in a way, because I think he was the same with his show, uh, Parts Unknown, for example, because you can
Mhm.
clearly tell it's him that's decided we're going here. I'm talking to these people. They're gonna show us what's cool around this area, which is the same way you do these episodes. Like you go to Amanda Graves and then you talk to her, you and her colleagues and her friends, and you get to know, oh, she's really passionate about cheerleading and coaching young girls in cheer. Well, I'm gonna go join that as well. It gives this, as I've said before, a whole picture around this artist that
Yeah.
shows us where this glitter idea comes from in a much more deep way,
And it
with
also,
her as an example, and with Rocket Ramblers as well, with Sergey. It's a genius
I,
idea to go and see where that is from, the drag racing and all that stuff.
yeah, I see the artwork and I can recognize in the artwork that there's something that sparks that. There's a story, there's a culture, there's a entire life behind that has brought into that story and that specific like theme, that the artwork that they create. And it happens with like my short form videos as well.
Yeah.
So I have many people reach out or suggest me or tell me, and they're like, dude, you need to make a video on this. And I've always turned down, I've never taken any money from artists. I refuse to for my life because it's my platform on the social media is my documentation of tattooing. So it's all based on my perspective. It's all based on things that I enjoy talking about, which is what makes it so much fun at the end of the day. Because
Yeah.
I don't know, I just like, I think there's an eye that I've created of just finding these unique different styles, and it's so much fun.
I mean, I would absolutely agree. You've developed a keen sense for noticing both craftsmanship that's great and also noticing unique styles and something where there might be something deeper when you scratch a bit on the surface. I think you've
Yeah.
developed a very keen sense of that, which is why, I mean, that's when you've got something when people like, even I talked to you about this when we first had our meet and greet. Uh, Seems like ages ago now, but it wasn't actually
Yeah.
that long ago. But this idea that you start thinking, how the fuck does he find these people? But the thing is, that's exactly the thing. You have this keen sense you've developed. So to you, it's not a mystery how you find these people. They come, you sort of put yourself into situations, you meet them, you may know exactly who to ask or where to look to find them. And that's all due to your you immersing yourself, as you've said, in tattooing, in the culture and the
Yeah.
history and all that stuff.
I think that's like, it helped me so much, but I took like a reflection back, and I remember first studying people and I only knew like two great artists. I've seen so much artwork, but I was like, well, I know this guy, I know this guy. I was like, should I study him like flashcards? I was like, no, if you just keep doing this, you're gonna eventually have it all, and like all the knowledge packed away. And now, like when I was starting to create the documentaries, I was just like firing off. I'm like, shit, there's like 50 people I want to make a doc with in the first week.
But I mean, that's a better situation than struggling to find out who the next episode's going to be on, you know?
Yeah, because after reviewing them, studying their artwork, hanging out with a lot of them, there's even people who I like their artwork, but I was like, I don't know like how we can capture this essence. But after hanging out with them, you find out that they spent like 15 years in Japan tattooing underneath a bush or something like that. And you're like, well, the artwork's incredible, but what can you add to the story? And all these artists, I mean, it's just one of the communities that has some of the most wild and diverse stories you can imagine. Because there's people who are
Absolutely.
very like just I guess like a normal lifestyle, like a normal human, create beautiful art. But then there's other people who just live like rock stars.
I mean, not even, I don't even think of rock star is the right term. They're just, I think adventurer might be better sometimes because, for example, Sergey, I wouldn't call him a rock star, but it's more like he's just found out
Yeah,
this thing and he traveled around the States, as you explained in the documentary, and he found this love for drag racing. It's like listening to some old adventurer from old fucking travel documentaries back in the day, and then he's just also became a brilliant tattooer in his own form of traditional
yeah.
style, you know?
He's truly a cowboy who's chasing the freedom in his
Despite being
words.
Russian, which seems antithesis to one another. But
Yeah,
yeah,
crazy. In his words, he just says chasing the freedom.
yeah. I mean, incredibly so. And but the thing I also noticed about the documentaries is you have a really, and I think it's your personal touch and how you go about talking to them. You really do a good job of connecting the audience with the person you're talking to connecting them to this personality as well. Like I felt like I'd hung out with Sergey after watching that episode, you know. It's same with the episode with Amanda. Like you feel like, wow, I felt like I was there while you were
Yeah,
practicing cheer, you know.
that makes
And I
me
think
happy
that
to hear.
I think it comes down to the way you converse with them because there is a sort of expert thing, and I know that as a sociologist yourself, you've got to be careful about this barrier that you can sometimes create being the person creating something, whether you're a self-styled ethnographer for good reason, like yourself, or a sociologist or an anthropologist or whatever it is. You can sort of create a fake barrier between you and what you're researching or studying, but you very much break that barrier down, and that helps breaking it down for the audience, I think.
Well, it makes me happy that you say that because, like, I've always, with people, I felt like I've always been able to connect with people right away, no matter who it is, whether I don't like them or not. Easy to communicate because we can talk about things that we both have in common. And one thing when it comes with the artists and capturing their stories, and we started doing this now, but we make sure that we spend an entire day hanging out with them, whether we're getting beers, whether we're going out to eat, something like that, just to really connect. Because I tell them, look, as much as this is all on me to capture your story, and I'll figure out how to write the structure and stuff like this. But when we come, we're just gonna fucking hang out. And I'll ask you the questions that I need about your artwork, but I'm gonna integrate it into this conversation where you don't even recognize that Mike is walking around with a camera because I want to see you in your natural habitat. I want to become friends with you at the end of the day, is one of my biggest things. And I just want us to have a good time. And it's easy to capture everything I need to from you where you feel the most comfortable.
Well, feel in the same way as you were quite happy that I want to talk about your documentary, which is of course your passion project, your baby. It's the same thing you do with Amanda and with Sergey and with the others. I know you're doing episodes on currently. You let them lead the story in a way. You let them show you what's important to them, which makes them
Yep.
happy because I bet most other people would never have asked Amanda, for example, can I come along for, cheer's important to you. Can we include that? Most people would never have thought to do that, but you did. And that makes her probably feel excited because she knows that's inspiring to her. But most people are not going to get that if they don't see it, you know?
Yeah. And that was from the get go. And I was like, jump into their personal life if they allow you, because one, it helps showcase their personality, showcase their culture. It adds more of the human touch to it. And there's a scene that I need to send you that wasn't in the documentary. So there was two things that I did in her life. Her husband is a skateboarder,
Oh.
and he has a half
No,
pipe in the
I
backyard.
saw that outtake where you
Did
destroyed your shoulder.
absolutely ate shit. I've made it down a half pipe when I was younger, but I'm gonna be 30 next month, and that thing was little. Her daughter went down it completely fine afterwards. I was like, shit. But I was at the top of it. I was like,
Let, let,
I
let
don't
me
know.
let me redeem your sense of cool again. Because the last time I tried standing on a skateboard, I didn't even make it to push it once before I fell and almost ruined my new sleeve at the time.
Oh, I've been so upset.
So yeah, I've never been more like, yeah, I'm not doing that ever again to my best mate back then than almost ripping off the skin on a new tattoo. I was like, nope,
Yeah.
we're done. Skateboarding was fun. It was 2 seconds of glory, and I'm done with skateboarding.
Yeah, skateboarding, I commend all those people who are great at
Absolutely.
it.
But that's the
Or
same
even
with cheerleading.
trying.
I thought you were gonna get hurt there. Like
Dude, I was so
that
scared. I was terrified because one, I had to catch
that terrifies me more. What you're gonna say now, that you're gonna have to catch one of those little girls.
yeah, so we had to put Meadow up, which was her daughter, is her
Yeah.
daughter, and we're holding them up. The rest is just other teenage girls. And they're like, all right, throw her up. And I was like, what do you mean throw her up? And we tossed her up. And I just put my arms like this. I'm like, if I just don't bend, we'll catch her.
Thinking
And
in your
then,
head, this is gonna really ruin the documentary if I don't catch her though.
yeah, I was like, I have Amanda's daughter's life in my hands, and it's all on camera.
Yeah, that is. Woo!
And
That is a real test
then,
of friendship right there, to be honest.
yeah, insane. And then they were like, all right, you're going to go up. And I looked, and I
That
don't
was the
weigh a
funniest bit, to
lot.
be honest.
Yeah, I know I don't weigh a lot, but I'm still 6 foot, and it's all just kids. And they're like, all right, stand up. And I'm standing up there. I never stretch, so my knees are just buckling. I'm like, oh.
Man. But I mean, it made for gold, and I think, as I said, it creates this whole holistic, I think is the word for it, picture of this. And I think that's what gave me a sense of like, it reminds me of how anthropologists work sometimes. I've seen people like Lars Kutag and people like that researching indigenous tattoo cultures. And though this is not indigenous cultures, is interesting in a different way that I find much more appealing as a sociologist, of course. But it reminds me of this anthropological thing with like immersing yourself in their life and letting them show you the culture and the social context and all that. And then also talking to the people around them. Like you sat down with people working at Amanda's studio and talked to them about what it gave
Yeah,
them.
I think just the many different angles allows people to connect because you can resonate and have things in common with the other tattoo artists. You hear one thing and you're like, oh my God, that's like me. Or like the next episode coming out is the Murray brothers, who are based
All
in
right, yeah.
Salem, Massachusetts. And they have an oddity shop right next to the Salem Witch Trial House. They host
Jesus.
the Halloween theme parade every year. And we went during Halloween, peak Halloween season. So while we were there, here's some spoiler. We carved pumpkins with the twins, and we went out in a corn maze and a cornfield. And that all has to do with Halloween. And we were like, this is so perfect. There couldn't be a more Halloween tattoo artist and location. And we're going during pumpkin season.
I mean, that's just incredible timing, to be honest. Like
Yeah. We had
you
to go.
you have to do it. Like you couldn't not do that.
Yeah. It was so cool. And I think when I was trying to plan the documentaries, I was trying to think of a general theme. And I came down to the realization that it's one about the story, but it's about just something super unique with each one. And Sergey, we were just completely thrown off by.
I
I had
mean
no idea
that
what we were
is
expecting.
I mean it's wild to have that progression. I mean, Amanda was already a great start that episode, but it's wild to have that progression of improvement from one to the second episode. Like that it was quite wild. I really like I loved both, but the Sergey one really like that's where even the first one already gave me the whole Anthony Bourdain anthropology like thing, and you already to me earned the like because if people usually say, "Oh, I'm an ethnographer without the education," I'm like, yeah, yeah, yeah. But some people like yourself, it's like, yeah, you are. You are an ethnographer. Like you've clearly shown your work. You are an ethnographer. Like there you
You
are.
want to know something funny about that term?
Yeah, yeah.
And I appreciate you saying that, and it makes me makes me feel good because as I was talking with tattoo artists at a convention in Paris, we were hanging out and the boys and they're like, so like what do you do? Like what do you tell people you do? And I was like, I don't have a word. I was like, because I study, I
Mm.
document, it's across different cultures, like I'm studying the different things. And I was like, I can't fucking think of it. And he's like, you're like a tattoo journalist. But then I was like, but I don't write for news.
Yeah, no,
And
that's
it's all like personal. And I was like, I'm not a blogger.
no.
And then I went into ChatGPT. I was like, this is what I do in the tattoo world. Give me a term that describes me. And it's like tattoo ethnographer, somebody who studies and immerses themselves in different cultures across the planet in a certain subject. And I was like, that's a cool word.
I mean, it is basically what you do, and this ChatGPT had the definition right on the money there. That is what an ethnographer does. The difference there between that and an anthropologist or sociologist is there's a lot more, you could say, in-depth research to go into it. There's certain other, angles you take to it. But with you, it's very much an ethnography. You're not doing it to then go back and then pour through tomes and books and then analyze it all that. You are showcasing this in the angle you find it most interesting and that other people might find it most interesting. And that's very much ethnography in that sense.
Well, it makes me feel happy because when I first saw it, I was like, that's an incredible word, but I don't want to be like a self-proclaimed, like I don't want to just jump in and be like that. But
No.
then over time and creating the documentaries and creating the things and creating the holes of ink, I was like, well, it does align a lot better
Yeah, but I mean,
in
you're
that
putting in the
manner.
work. Like you're putting in a lot of work to this, and that's brings us back. I mean, we sort of done the backwards trip to this point, but that's the whole modus operandi of what you're doing. To use a fine term, you want to document the world of tattooing, the culture, the history, and the people. You're putting in the legwork to do so. So I would say at least the title like ethnographer you are, if you haven't earned it yet, you're very much earning it as we go along.
Thank you. And I think it's like the immersion because
I mean, I
you
haven't
spend
seen any of the
time.
PhDs I've shown this say, oh no, he's shit. Like that would be a warning sign to you if any of the sociology professors I know would be like, no, no, he shouldn't call himself that. Fuck this guy.
Yeah. Once I get an ethnographer coming in comments or a group, I just hit an ethnographer group and then they're like, get out of here. I'm like,
Yeah,
all
get him.
right.
You've hit a bad group if they're like, so where did you study? Like,
When I study Bloomsburg University
so yeah.
and I studied beer
But
there.
but I want to know, um, what I know a little bit. I mean, we've spoken quite a bit. We've nerded out on three occasions already about tattoos and what you do. But I know your passion for documenting comes from a very real and very altruistic place. You want to help make it more understandable, the tattoo world in a way. And in a way, it's to help future scientists like myself and Matt Lotter and people like that, historians, sociologists, whatever, have better access to data, but it's also to help others, that are curious about the tattoo world understand it better. And that's quite a noble thing, I find. And I know you have one very great ambition that I think if anybody has the drive to do it, it's probably going to be you. But tell us a little bit more about wanting to do a museum as well.
So the Halls of Ink, I came up with that name. I thought it was, I'm kind of like a method thinker. When I get into a concept I want to make, I just dive in. So I created the Halls of Ink and I picture this just giant, like cathedral aesthetic to the museum. Um, And I wanted to create this concept because I've become very passionate about preserving tattoo history. I've spent a lot of time with some of the greats from the previous generations
Yeah.
and realizing, like, I talked to Philip Liu and Lucky, Carrie Barba. I spent time talking to Mark Mahoney. And there is a bigger preservation now of tattoo history, but in those previous decades, nobody, one, it was taboo in a lot of places, and all the Flash, the Sailor Jerry Flash, Ed Hardy stuff, a lot of these relics were tossed away. There was, I heard so many stories of people knowing
I
exactly
mean,
what they were.
you're exactly on the money there. Like I've had Matt Lotter on this podcast, a good a buddy of mine as well, and he's a historian of tattoos, an art historian. And he's said in his books, he said it on my podcast and many other chances on his own podcast as well, that because of this taboo and the stigma and all that stuff, and also the secrecy within the tattoo world, a lot of
Yep.
stuff were not kept, a lot of stuff were not preserved. There's so many gaps and holes where we struggle to fill it with information and artifacts and stuff like that because it's simply not been preserved. So it's
Yeah.
absolutely incredible what you're doing because it's helping preserve this current generation for the future as well.
100%, because I do stuff with the Tattoo Heritage Project, and there's a guy Chewy who has such an incredible collection. He has three of the four Sam O'Reilly machines that ever
Oh,
exist,
wow.
and there's one in New York he's friends with as well. But they preserve the older or the last century of tattoo artifacts, trying to collect as much as possible to create it in their museum, and they're putting up a museum in Long Beach, California, and the realization came to me, and I talked with Carrie about this, and she's like, it would be amazing. Like, we can come and do stuff together in the terms of museum, but you don't realize history is history until it's gone. And
Exactly.
I realized that what I'm doing now with the videos and making the huge curated list of artists for co-create, and I'm coming up with books, kind of making, like, preserving the tattoos of each year being made. But I was thinking that even with all my videos and the curated list, I'm creating a bit of history where it's recorded. You can go and look back at the videos and be like, oh, this is what they made at this time. So I started building many different concepts in this, and I'm like, I'm going to spend the rest of my life documenting this century of what's going on, whether it's Gisea's tattoo or Philo's print up there, or any prints that are made, any books, flash books, stuff like that. This is all stuff that, I mean, I'm gonna need a big ass house at some point, but
Yeah, that's
like
true.
250 books. And if I preserve all this, imagine that collection. Because I've gotten a lot of gifts, and I'm so grateful from tattoo artists because I make the video and they send me some beautiful artwork. I'm like, dude, if I get 100, like 100,000 different relics, we're all 80 years old, and you and I are sitting there and you're like, yo, remember this talk? And it's
I'll
all
sadly
shit.
be 85 at that by then, but yes.
But to preserve it while it's happening. So to get more into the museum, so I want to build this museum one day that's kind of like this next generation of
But
tattooing.
I think especially, and I mean, I'm sorry about putting it this way, because I know you will make it happen, but just because I'm pedantic, if you succeed in this, you're gonna be doing a tremendously great act for future tattooing. Because and just preserving, I mean, even outside of tattooing, any group, act, marginalized group, subculture, whatever we can preserve leaves us more information to base science and understanding and all that on later on. It's a great noble act to preserve stuff.
Thank you. Yeah,
I mean, I'm not trying to jerk you off here or please you too much. I mean, yes, I know this bromance is slowly growing, but it's I mean what I say. I think it's great. Even though as a sociologist, of course, we deal less with history. I mean, of course, we use it because it's good to base social theory and compare with. But even as a social scientist deals more with it now, it's still great to preserve these things. Exactly for that reason. Then you can
yeah.
compare. You can then go back and say, well, we saw in this collection that we saw these styles be prevalent, and now we have these styles. They take inspiration from, or you can compare the people, or if with you preserving books as well with lots of information, and we'll also be able to compare how the industry develops. more
Yeah,
correctly, you
you
know?
could
Because a lot of
see.
people before guys like Matt Lotter, a lot of people thought no, it was strictly bikers, strictly, and he just showed everybody in his books that like no, there was queer tattooers all the time, there was fucking people from high society and middle class backgrounds, and all this shit being both artists and collectors. It's great to know these things because this builds a more complete picture of what we actually know about tattooing and what tattooing actually is, you know?
Yeah. And I mean, when I started studying the history and getting more involved with that, I was in the mindset of, okay, it stops at Sailor Jerry. Like this is traditional tattoos and that. And then I come across Sutherland McDonald. And I was like, are you fucking kidding me? And
Yeah,
then,
that's a lot. That's a lot before
yeah,
Sailor Jerry.
but
But
I
yeah,
saw that. And then I like knew the different regions of tattooing that goes back with like the Siberian Ice Maiden and then in the Chinchorro culture, stuff like that. And I was like, all right, it's neat to see these people doing tattooing at different points. But then just, I don't know, I think the most shocking one to me so far, and I hope you can blow my mind even more with stuff. But when I saw this, what Sutherland was doing at that time period, and I had this preconception of, all right, this is how advanced we were with making art on the body. And then I was like,
I
crazy.
mean, it is quite incredible. And I think the most we saw as Matt's also talked about, especially I think it was especially in his latest book, it might have been the previous one. That was the reason we were so impressed with Japan, and the reason we thought we found something new in Polynesia and places like this is because the styles were so different and the tools were so different. But tattooing was always present in Europe at the time as well. And we've since realized as well that coming over through the ice ages when there was a land bridge between Russia and Siberia to the North American continent, we've seen a migration of the indigenous Siberian tattoos from 10,000, 20,000 years ago just slowly make its way all the way to Greenland. And that's why you have the similar tattooing in all the Inuit cultures and all that stuff.
Yeah.
It's fascinating stuff. So we've basically seen tattooing be present all over the world. That's also why when Isa, who I don't know if you have spoken to him yet, but I know you are going to speak to Isa at some point, uh, who's a fellow Dane, lives in England, does Nordic tattoos. As he says as well, and Matt's also concurred with his historical knowledge, we don't have any proof the Vikings were tattooed, but we can almost infer that they probably might have been, because all the cultures around them almost, we have proof were tattooed. And they definitely had the technology to do that kind of stuff and the artwork that might inspire them to do that kind of stuff. So yeah,
Yeah. That was, I think there's got to be a high chance that.
I mean, I very much agree with Isar there. That is very likely that they were tattooed. We don't know if it was like in the Viking show. That's all guesswork that they might have had face tattoos or anything like that. We have no idea. But
Didn't
they were
Matt
tattooed.
say in his book that the Britain's name of the painted people?
Um, the painted people, the Picts, originally from what we call Scotland today, were a bit different. And it's not, as far as I know, we're not certain they tattooed themselves. That's again one where we assume quite a lot, and they probably might have been. But yeah, they tattooed themselves. Not necessarily in blue, like some people like to think. They might have been painted blue, they might have been tattooed blue as well. But they like to put animals and fauna from their culture on their bodies in tattoos, as far as I remember. And Matt might, this might be the first time my Matt comes into the comment section and scolds me. I'm not perfect at remembering history like he is, but yeah, something like that, basically. So yeah, the Picts as well were heavily tattooed, but we also had tattoos down in the south of England at the time, I think, as well. But that is me again. I can't remember historical facts too well, so I might be wrong on that one. But yeah, but again, this actually brings us back to the point of why it's so good that we have somebody like you, and I hope more people do the same in other sections of the stories, like in Asia or in Africa, anything place like that, because we don't know these things for certain exactly because they weren't preserved or the artifacts and stuff have been destroyed later by religious zealots. For one reason or another, these parts of history have not been preserved at the time, and thus we can't know for certain. So
Yeah.
imagine what you're doing now. If we can be preserved and it's preserved after you're gone as well, that leaves us to not speculate about this time and to two traditions and to two trends of this time because we'll know.
You'll have, and because the size and I won't say exactly what it is, but the size of the museum and the way I want it to be built is to where it'll always be able to exist and for future generations to use and to continue adding to it to
I
make
mean,
sure that this niche and this community and their stories are always protected.
yeah. I mean, that's the thing. I mean, and I think an important part to notice there is when you say protected there, you don't mean isolated and only for the chosen few to go and peruse. You mean preserved, like you mean so that we have them and they're not getting lost and stuff like that. Because
Yeah.
other people, and I think that's, as we talked about earlier, one of the mistakes of the past generation sometimes, when they meant protecting, they also meant, no, you can't see this. You're not gonna read
Yeah.
this stuff, which is sadly a lot of an easy way to get stuff lost sometimes when you don't allow anybody to read it or preserve it as well. Like,
Yeah. And I want like it'll be like a token to the community and a preservation, but I'd also have the doors open for others to enjoy. You can come
that I
in,
think
you
that's a
can
beautiful
read the
thing. Like,
books.
and again, that also creates more understanding of us to two people. Because I mean, I've wrote a whole article of that for Ink that's at the time of recording this, hopefully will be out soon. But for us who are really deeply into tattoos, people like you and me, like Philo, like others we know, this allows people to understand us better. To know there is a history, there is this weird amorphous culture we share and other smaller cells of that culture all over the place and that. And it's when people can learn about this and understand that we're not just fucking weirdos who have sickened the head because we want to paint our bodies, they also start accepting us more. Not they don't
Yeah.
necessarily want to join the club. I'm not trying to recruit people either, but at least they understand us more and
Yeah.
might leave us
'Cause
just to be these weirdos, you know?
there's a lot. It's crazy to me how there's so much hate towards tattooing in whether it's just beliefs. I mean, I won't dive deep into that, but it's just people have such a dissonance against tattooing, and it's been going on longer than anybody can even comprehend.
In some people's theories, it's gone on longer than we've lived in organized settlements, aka cities and towns and villages.
Yeah. And the taboo today is like,
Like, yeah.
do you have morals if you have tattoos? You're a criminal. You can't get this job even though you have a 4.0 at the most
It's not
prestigious
even that
college
they
in
think
the
we're
world.
criminal necessarily anymore, but they just think like we have
Yeah.
some sort of moral failing and we can't hold a job or we can't do this or that or we can't be trusted or we're promiscuous or we're druggies or all this fucking shit they came up with in the fucking 70s and 80s that just
Yeah.
still holds up, you know.
Because it's like the second, I mean, hand tattoos are getting a little more popular, but you see a hand tattoo in the
Yeah.
some parts of the US, and you're like, oh, I don't want to associate.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing. Like, I've talked to other also social scientists about this. There is definitely more acceptance of tattoos today, but when you look at it in more detail, especially as a social scientist, it's more that the target has been moved. So most people that just get a few tattoos, that's not really any stigma. They'll probably not face much. They might have a disgruntled grandparent or somebody saying that was a bit silly at the job, but they're not going to face much stigma or prejudice. For people that get heavily tattooed or very visibly tattooed, it's a completely different story again.
Yeah,
And they will face
it's,
a lot more attention, both good and both negative and positive, but they also face a lot more stigma and prejudice.
and I think that'll always exist because, I mean, humans are the same way with outfits or body mods, or even if you put in a like a non or very unique eye contact lenses.
Yeah, yeah.
Like anything that may seem out of the ordinary, people we're always going to have people who are like, oh, no way.
Yeah, I mean, as much as I would like to think otherwise, or rather hope otherwise, that is very much the case. So probably always, whether in the majority and the minority, there will always be people that are like, "Oh, no, 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 you can't do that."
Yeah. And it does add like a, because it gives that like our community kind of thing. Like
Well,
it gives a what is the word I'm looking for when you are part of a community.
Hmm. The
Uh,
feeling of belonging.
yeah, that one. Like a belonging in a community. Like you like tattoos, or some people who don't like tattoos. You see like a
No, I get that. I mean, I also get that in a different way as a sociologist. But I would argue that not liking tattoos doesn't necessarily have to equate to discrimination or hate. You know, it could still be accepted. That still leaves us with the in feeling of like, no, no, we get it. We get why we do this. You know.
yeah.
There's a fine line there, I suppose, but yeah, I'm no, I'm almost naively optimistic at this point as a sociologist as
Yeah,
well.
you're the
But
expert in this
in this
style.
regard, to some extent, there are others that know way more than me. Also, people I know, so I always hesitate to call myself too much of an expert. I try to be, uh, but you know, the thing is, and this is why I quoted that quote from Matt Lotter in the article I showed you for Inked, out soon, hopefully, at the time of this recording. No, not hopefully, out soon at the time of this recording, sorry. But uh, for people that just love tattoos, to paraphrase the quote, I can't remember it exactly, there will always be an allure to it. Whether it's popular or it's frowned upon completely or driven on the ground, for people that really like tattoos, it will always be alluring. And I very much that resonates so much with me because I don't care if it's popular, if it's not. I just like tattoos and being tattooed. And I feel you're the same way as well. You don't care if everybody has a tattoo or if nobody has a tattoo. You want to be
Yeah,
tattooed. Like
yeah.
and I think
I
that's a
just
pure
like
love
being.
because I always feel pity when I meet people in our community. Sorry to throw a bit of shade here. Don't hate me too much. But I feel pity for the people that often say, no, make it underground again or make it edgy again because then it'll be cool again. And like, do you need it to be cool to love tattoos? Because then you don't love tattoos. Then you love being cool. And that was your tool to achieve that.
Yeah,
Like
that's a great way to put
that's
it.
very much my analysis as a social scientist and with some expertise on the body identity and tattoos. That for people that want it to be like underground and badass or scary, as one person told me once, but you want to be scary then. That do something else. Like tattoos were
Yeah,
just your tool to do that then, and you're sad that you don't want to commit to a face tattoo to be scary, so you miss when sleeves were scary. Well, all right. Sorry to say this in a weirdly blunt and comical way. Put in more effort then, if you want to be scary. Do something
yeah,
else.
yeah. Because like
Because culture is
I'm
changing.
pretty.
Let me say this as a social scientist and sociologist. Culture will always be changing. The idea some people have that culture is a static thing that could just remain in a certain way, bullshit. It's not how it works.
Yeah, things change all the
Things
time.
change,
You can
especially
see,
culture. It is ever evolving.
and especially in this globalization now, like you see the difference between our grandparents' first 40 years and then our first 40 years. The shit that we have seen is so much faster,
So
and
much faster.
it's crazy.
And I don't mind it. It can be daunting at times, but I don't mind it. But I'm also biased. I love diversity and multiculturalism and all that shit. So, I mean,
Yeah.
I'm very biased there.
And it's very
But yeah,
fascinating to be able to watch it in real time because of how fast it progresses. So,
yeah, man, absolutely. But I mean, that's again why it's so cool for you to do this documentary and the other documentary work you do, because you show this. You show this diversity and the different cultures and how we all feel like. I think it's brilliant in the other way because, as one of my favorite sociologists and friend nowadays, Beverly and Thompson, has said as well, the tattoo community is what we call amorphous. It's we all have this idea that there is a tattoo community, but none of us can define it clearly because there's different versions of it no matter where you go that have some of the same rules as all the others, yet none are completely the same. So
yeah,
because this amorphous thing, we all agree it's there, we all sort of recognize it, but it's less. You can't just objectively define it. This is tattoo culture, you know?
it's so diverse. I mean, because
Yeah,
like you take
exactly.
something like car culture and cars, like, I mean, you're all doing same thing, all different types of cars, but it's all just cars, but with
Yeah, there may be
tattooing.
slight differences in how it's engineered, but it's a
Yeah.
car.
You like the look, the speed. It's just,
Yeah.
yeah, not much changing. But when you see tattoos, you see different cultural things that go into it, different lengths of history going into it. You still see people doing very old traditional stuff, like my friend Jeremy over in um shit. What it's Bhutan, I believe. Yeah. I having a
I
brain
like the
fart.
ability, information, or inclination to correct you. So
What's what's the country that's? Oh no, it's Brunei. It's silly. Brain
Brunei,
fart.
yeah, cool.
Brunei. Yeah. So sorry, Jeremy. Um, but you do the traditional tattoo under that. You still see Irizumi. You still see Wang Un still tapping, and then you see these new styles of stuff. I mean, it's just such a variance in everything.
And that's why it's cool that you're showing it, and I think that's in your Instagram stuff, you show it in a very quick but often quite in-depth way for the format, fitting the format. And in your documentary, you dive way more into the people behind it. So it really gives this impression that, yeah, because I think Sergey is the best example of this, even though they're both great examples of it, because you sit there thinking, wow, this is such a different person to me, but this is what inspired them to do these brilliant tattoos. And we have that in common. We like tattoos. And that's a healthy thing for people to experience, I think. That, oh,
Yeah.
this person is so different from me, but they're doing this other thing that I find so cool and I really like.
Yeah. Or if you didn't like tattoos at all and
Yeah.
you're
And you
watching
when you like
this
drag racing, for example.
and yeah, you're like, I love drag racing. This guy's awesome. And you've always wanted, and you're like, well, maybe I could get a drag racing car or a biker dude flying through the valleys. And you see that and you're like, all right, now it makes sense. Here's a story that helps me resonate.
Yeah, same with the one with Amanda. Like there might be, let's say there's a young cheer girl, might be 18 planning her first tattoo, not sure if she wants one. She sees somebody like Amanda that really gets her cheer thing, knows all the ins and outs and the rules of what you can and can't do to be, for example, professional competitive cheer. I don't know the rules, so I'm not gonna get into that detail. But they see somebody like Amanda and they feel, well, I can do this. And there will be people out there who get this,
Yeah. And it makes
who get
sense now
this
because
platform. Yeah.
that's the most rewarding thing as well, is because like a lot of these artists I see for the first time, I get mind blown every single day. And I know a majority of the world hasn't seen all these new tattoo styles. And just knowing that every time I make a video, I know I'm linking up somebody with something that resonates heavily with them, something that they've always wanted. They just haven't found that artist. And you can just bring the people together in that manner.
I think that's
And
exactly what draws you to it, having spoken to you a few times now, the documenting. There's also that thing, you like bringing people together by showing them this stuff.
yeah, connect people, helps the artist connect with new clients. I've had it's always somebody texted me yesterday, but it's always a very humbling and just very nice feeling. But there was a tattoo studio and my friend was asking the artist or the client, he's like, oh dude, how'd you find this guy? And he's like, dude, Ain't the Broads video. And I hear it a bunch. I'm like, that's so
That's so
cool
cool.
because
Sorry, we said it together there, but that is really cool. That is really cool. I get that. But I mean, you gotta recognize some of the praise you're getting and some of the recognition you're getting. I mean, you've been working with Solon for a while now, to be honest, and you're working with Co-Create, and I mean, they're a growing brand, but they're quite recognized. So they used you to curate at least
yeah.
one list I know of, but it might be more, to be honest, of
Yeah,
artists.
it's the main list on there, and they're doing a really incredible thing, and
I
it's
think so
helping
as
out
well.
so many artists. And I
That's a
love
whole other
just like,
discussion I do want to get into one day, but I actually, despite spoiler them not being able to give me a job when I applied for one with them, that's a whole thing. No hard feelings for me there. That's how things go. I do fight what they do brilliant because of a thing that it does they might not even realize, which is creating a more secure network for payment and processing. Because
huge
there's
because
so
there's
many
so many
we're not getting
scammers
into
out
it
there.
today, but there's so many scammers and so many people get scammed, and having a secure platform or platforms where people can pay through, or even if it was universal in some way, or at least nationally universal in different countries, it'll make people safer. Like how you pay for your a guy to come fix your plumbing, or how you pay, like most people have to hire a pro company for some construction work or that, they'll pay through a secure platform.
Yeah,
You don't do that with tattoos.
nope. And it makes it life so much easier.
Exactly. But that's a whole other discussion. Now, to round us up here, because we actually got to a really good point, I want to ask you something. And nobody would ask some really silly question of that, but I actually thought of something much nicer that'll put you on the spot. So I'm sorry, friend, my friend, but I gotta ask, how did it feel premiering the second episode at a convention to a whole room of people watching it with you?
Dude, it was surreal. And my friend Mike set up the whole thing. And he's like, how about we rent out a bar and show and start inviting everybody there? And I was like, no, it's okay. Like, we'll put it on YouTube. And he was really adamant on it. And he helped with the documentary. And I know it meant a lot for him. So I was like, all right, you do your magic and we can go. I'll invite all my friends from college because they live in Philly.
Mm.
And I told my mom about it. But he was really excited to get up the event. So we rented out this like dive bar, and we're on the second floor of the dive bar, which I love dive bar so much. I would go dive bar over any fancy drink any day of the week. Just give me a Coors
Uh,
Light and I'm good to go. But
you don't want
we
a beer
rented
instead?
out.
No, I'm joking. I'm
Huh?
joking. I'm joking.
We love Coors.
Oh, just it's just Europeans about American beer. Sorry.
Yeah, Europeans. We got some rough beer over here.
Yeah. Anyways, continue your story.
So we got almost like fifty people to attend. And everybody went in. The sound was a little off in one section, which I was worried about, but opened it up. I did the speech, or I gave a speech, and then everybody watched it together. And it was very, very nice. I was so grateful for everybody to come and
I mean,
see it.
people seem to love it. Like from what I saw on your stories and that when it happened, people seem to absolutely eat it up. Like they were loving this documentary. People were posting it on their own stories as well.
Yeah, it was very sweet. I was very grateful for everybody and just coming and showing some love for it because we put a lot of work into that
I mean,
one.
I doubt it's gonna be the last time you do a live premiere. It would be a waste if you don't do it again for one of the other episodes, because I think more people are gonna show up for the next one, to be honest.
Well, we kind of want to do one for each thing, and
Ooh.
also we need to make one for Sergey, and maybe I can show you on here. Um, but you know how when you walk through a movie theater, you have let's see where Mike is. Where's Mike? When you go through a movie theater and you see the posters of
Yeah.
like the documentary. So we created one. Here's a blurry little picture, but Life Beyond
Yeah,
Ink, and it's
I've seen that. That is such a
and then we gifted it to Amanda to keep. So we're gonna make one for
oh,
Sergey,
that's really
and
nice.
we're gonna gift where all of us sign it
Nice.
and then give it to them. And we didn't do it with Amanda, but I need a copy. So when we have the halls of ink, then we can put all the documentaries up.
Absolutely. It has to be done. It has to be done.
We went,
But
I know it was very like a simple film crew going into these, but the way Mike and I approach and our friend Nick in the first one, we want to just try and make it as like fucking top tier as possible. Make it look like $1 million. And I know we're very far away from it, but try and make it look like $1 million
I mean,
documentary.
I think it's a great production value, and I think it's also has a charm to it. Like, I think again, I know I keep comparing to him, but I think that's what attracted people to Parts Unknown as well. Yes, of course, even higher production value than your current show is. I mean, he had a whole crew, I would imagine, but there was still this sort of down to earth guerrilla like documentary feel to it, you know?
Yeah.
And
Like,
that's what enticed people, that it truly felt like Anthony would be like, oh, wait, this guy just invited us around the corner while we're here in Mexico to his stand over here, so let's go.
yep.
And I think
I
that's the
think
same
that's a
thing you're
cool
doing, that
thing.
it's like, it's genuine. Of course, there'll be some things that are staged that you talk, like, but the girl walks up and says to you if you want to come to cheer, but it still feels
Yeah.
genuine and it feels very natural, that progression. And it's like, yeah, fuck, let's go into it. And even more so in the episode with Sergey, it's like, oh, yeah, we're gonna watch Sergey race now because we're here and he's racing, you know?
Yeah. I think and that's what makes it so much fun. Is being able to add so many different parts because I know when I did the Murray brothers, um, I was stressing out. I was trying to, at the moment, try and write everything together. And I was like, no, just, what needs to be captured, put it together, film, ask the questions, hang out, and then you can put it together after. But I got my head as I was making it. I was like, shit, fuck, what are we doing? I don't know. And then Mike was like, calm down, have a beer, just go into it, and we're just hanging out. And I was like, yeah, you're right. I was like, it all comes together. It's more natural that way. And then like we find people on the street who are dressed up in Halloween outfits, and the whole town knows about the Murray brothers. So you go up to random people, ask this dude dressed up. I don't know if we caught it on camera, but it scared the piss out of me. I was walking and some like 6-year-old girl comes up in a creepy little outfit and she's like, ring around the rose. I'm like,
fuck that.
oh,
fuck that.
I'm out. We're leaving
Nope.
Salem.
I'm not a big fan of kids at the best of times. That would absolutely put me.
I was like, where are your parents? Get out of here.
Go find them, not me.
Yeah.
Oh man. On that strange note, Dakota, I've kept you for a long time now for this episode. And before we start a whole other episode on our fear of spooky children that we share, I want to first of all thank you so much for coming on my little my tiny little modest podcast here. I can't believe we got the Inky Broad on here, and I could say that we're buddies now. But thank you, man. And
thank you so much.
Not that you need it with my audience, but anyways, just because we have to keep it even, we have to keep it fair. Plug yourself. Tell people what you have going on and what you want to keep an eye out for.
Well, one, thank you for having me. This is so much fun as anytime that we talk, and this podcast is going to cook because it's great talking with you, and you're so knowledgeable, and we could go for 5 hours, but
we almost did that one time, to be honest.
Yeah. We cook. Things to look forward to. So I'm going to keep making, obviously, the broad videos. More documentaries are coming out. We're filming a bunch coming up. We got Carrie Barba, Murray Brothers, Russ Abbott, and the Petunia Twins, Coral.
Wow,
there's a bunch. And also the Hulls of Ink. So I'm starting a second Instagram, and it's going to be everything of preserving tattoos. So we're going to be making videos of the art of our work, history, stuff like that. And these mini series we're going to put on YouTube as well. So they're probably going to be like 5 minutes long. But the way we're structuring it is where I'm still integrating my narration, and it's going to have the cinematic look. Nice. But that's our next huge project. So nice. I'm putting everything into that this year.
As always, you're doing 130 things at a time, and you're probably going to do great at all of them, if not at least most of them. Man, I can't wait to see how it turns out, man.
I start my tattoo apprenticeship in August.
That's the other thing, and that's going to be quite exciting as well. I mean, I'm excited for several reasons about that. One, it seems like a natural progression with how much you love tattoos, and you also like to draw, especially traditional pinups. But also, and this is kind of the nerd in me, it also seems like it's going to feed nicely into your whole documenting thing and the research needed for that.
I'm so excited. Trying to balance it all is gonna age me like fucking milk, but
you could do with some fucking aging. You look like a fucking baby's ass, to be honest. Yeah. As we say here.
I need something. It's gonna cook me.
Before we get into more, once again, thank you, Dakota. And to anybody listening in or watching, thank you so much, and we'll see you in a couple of weeks.
Thank you.
Hello, everybody. I hope you enjoyed this episode with the awesome and very magnanimous and incredible Dakota Weik, aka Inky Broad, as you know. I think it's incredible what he does, especially in regards to documenting the world and history of tattooing, as well as the people of it. And I hope people go and actually check out his documentary. I have myself, and I'm a big fan of what he does, with especially Beyond the Ink, but also the new Halls of Ink project he has now. Do go check it out. And next time, we're going to be changing the script a bit. We're going to be changing the focus, so to speak. We're moving from looking at a young, very ambitious and awesome influencer in the tattoo space who's doing all the documentary work, Dakota, to talking to one of the old-timers, a legend in the UK tattoo scene, who started many, many years ago with his own studio, New Wave Tattoo, that still exists today, though it's more a legacy than completely new, I would argue, nowadays. But I have the great fortune and pleasure of talking to Lal Hardy, and for once, I'm mainly just sitting there listening. I know I normally have a lot to say on these episodes and a lot to discuss with my guests and help bring that point across, but this time there was so much Lal had to talk about and tell, and the stories he had from actual tattoo history that he lived through in the UK scene, that I almost couldn't get myself to actually interrupt or do anything. So I think that's going to be an episode that a lot of people are really going to enjoy, and if you want to know more about the history of tattooing, I highly recommend checking out the works of Matt Lotter and any other tattoo historians if you can find them out there. And I'll see you in a couple of weeks.